Hi everyone, I am so excited to share with you my tips on logic games studying, specifically logic games, because I know a lot of people struggle with logic games, and for some it's relaxing and fun, it's like a puzzle, and then for others it's like, why? But I wanted to share these tips that I wrote on this post-it note. This is way too much, so I'm going to try and go really fast. Start early. If you are an undergrad in college, I would start freshman year or sophomore year. This LSAT logic games is not like anything you've ever learned before. You have to learn it for this test, and you should spend lots of time on it. You're allowed to take the LSAT 5 times, 3 times in a year. I would plan it throughout your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year of college and work backwards on law school deadlines. I do not think it is too early to start freshman, sophomore year. 2, take a class to make friends. So depending on the LSAT class, talk with your people in your local area to see if they recommend a class. For me, I took a 5-week course. I think the most beneficial thing was, kind of learning the basics, but then also meeting like the bestest friends in my LSAT study group. So thirdly, within my LSAT study group, we did practice tests every Saturday, and it was just so awesome to have like 2 people who, were dedicated to studying, who wanted to study, who could meet up, at Starbucks, and, they're really good friends of mine. And that's why I would probably say join a study group so you can make friends who are committed to studying. Number 4, buy at least prep test 30 and whatever is the most current one. The reason why you want a whole bunch of practice problems is because let's say you have a basic sequencing one, you want to be able to do a lot of them because you just get faster, and nothing's wrong with getting faster at something. So a basic sequencing one, if you go back to practice test 30 or you go to practice test 87, you want to know that what you're doing, after you finish one, you do well, you're like, is that a fluke? Am I awesome or am I not awesome? You go back and you do a different one. You don't want to memorize any of the questions, and then you see if you can still do really well. So that's why it's so important to have so many different test sets. And I would recommend 30, but if you have the time, go back to practice test 1. The first time you go through it, or definitely, the first couple of times that you go through all the problem sets, go slow, go for accuracy. Don't even worry about time. I would probably say from a 5 to 7 logic games question set, if you spend 35 minutes, spend 35 minutes. It's painful, and obviously that's extremely slow, but it's okay. That's why I'm like, time is a huge luxury. So if you have the time, I feel like it's so much more worth it for you to take the time to really understand it than try and force yourself to speed up, and making errors later on, near the end of the test. Go in sections. So, there's tons of different resources out there that group all of the logic games in certain ways. So, basic, sequencing, there's just so many different ways, miscellaneous, that you can group logic games. I would not move on until you do well in one section. I would say, something that is really important, which is my point 7, is tracking with analytics. So I used Excel, and I timed myself, and I told myself how many questions that I got right in Excel. And so I had a ratio that is so important, and I probably should have started this as number 1, but the ratio is your points per minute. On the LSAT, you don't get points for getting harder questions. It's the same. You get the hardest one, the easiest one. It is something that's so important, is your points per minute. And it doesn't matter if your point is from a harder one or an easier one. They're all the same. So looking at your logic games, tracking it in Excel or whatever software out there they may have is so important, because you want to make sure that you're using your time effectively to study. And if you don't have that metric, it's so hard to be motivated to improve. So tracking with analytics is so important. So if the basic, easier questions, you should strive for definitely, you know, 1 minute per point. You know, and the harder ones, you can do 3 minutes per point, but all of them should average, you know, whatever your goal is, your goal LSAT score is. You want to make sure that, you know, out of a whole practice test that you meet that goal, whatever your points per minute ratio is. 8 is I use an iPad to work out my logic games problems, because you can, you know, write endlessly and categorize, you know, and you can be organized in what question sets you're going to be answering. You can organize it. You can go back and look at, you know, this question I did in 2 minutes. Okay, that's too fast. 7 minutes. This set of questions I did in 7 minutes. And then the next time I did it in 20 minutes. Like why was I so much slower the second time? So being able to have everything held inside of your iPad and all of it organized by folders and question types, you know, is really, really helpful in studying for the logic game section of the LSAT. And so those are the 8 things that I have, tips to study for the logic games LSAT. Let me know if this is helpful. If you want to take a look at the Excel that I made, I swear by it. I think I wouldn't have made the point increase at the last minute without my Excel that I had made. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, start early. 2, take a class to make friends. 3, take a practice test every Saturday. 4, buy at least, you know, practice test 30 to the most current one. Go slow and don't go for speed. 6, go in sections. Don't move on until you complete a logic game section. And that way, you know, once you move, you know you actually get it when you've completed one with the correct time and point accuracy that you're looking for. And then also track with analytics. Honestly, that should be 0.1, but I didn't write it as 0.1, so we'll just go with it. And number 8, use something that will help you organize all of your work and your effort, so you can go back to it and then move as quickly and effectively, efficiently as possible. And that is studying for the logic games LSAT.